What if the biggest political scam in modern British history wasn't hidden in some backroom deal or buried in leaked documents? What if it was happening right in front of us, wearing a red tie, delivering smooth speeches and calling itself integrity? That's exactly what Andrew Neil just accused Keir Starmer of. And he didn't whisper it. He said it with the sharpness of a scalpel on live TV. According to Neil, lying isn't just something Starmer does. It's the system he runs. We're not talking about exaggeration or political spin. We're talking about a leader who built an entire campaign, an entire government on deliberate deception. And now the mask is slipping. From stealing Conservative policies to faking immigration victories and plotting a £76 billion tax betrayal, it's becoming clear. Starmer didn't just sell out his principles, he sold out the entire country. This isn't politics, this is fraud. And it's time we tear the whole thing open. Andrew Neil isn't your average political pundit. This is a man who's watched every Prime Minister of the last 5 decades rise and fall. He's seen spin from Blair, chaos from Johnson, and wars under Thatcher. But never has he said what he's now saying about Keir Starmer. In 55 years, Neil has never accused any government of making lying its modus operandi. Until now. That's not just a criticism. That's an indictment of Starmer's entire leadership model. According to Neil, lying isn't a mistake in the Starmer administration. It's the plan. It's the structure. And if that doesn't make your skin crawl, it should. Because this isn't about one bad statement or a single misleading poster. It's about an entire government constructed on falsehoods and front-page illusions. Take immigration, the issue Labour plastered all over their social media. A polished, official Labour poster declared net migration cut by nearly 50%, as if it were some heroic achievement by Starmer's team. But behind the scenes, that drop wasn't Labour's doing at all. It was the result of James Cleverly's policy changes under the Conservative Home Office. Changes rolled out long before Labour touched power. Labour didn't drive the change. They hijacked it, claimed it, branded it as theirs. That's not campaign strategy. That's identity theft on a national scale. And it raises the question, if they're willing to lie about something that can be so easily traced and fact-checked, what else are they lying about? And here's where Andrew Neil's warning becomes truly chilling. He's not just saying Starmer lies, he's saying Starmer's government is defined by lies. That's a claim no serious journalist makes lightly. But Neil laid it out with precision, calling out the deceit that now defines the Labour Party's public messaging. He painted a picture of a government that doesn't just avoid the truth. It buries it beneath layer after layer of performance and spin. It's not a one-off mistake. It's a political scam baked into the system. And yet Keir Starmer stands in front of the cameras and talks about restoring trust. That word, trust, is becoming a joke under his leadership. Because while he smiles and assures the public of Labour's honesty, his team is carefully manufacturing narratives that manipulate public opinion, using borrowed policies, staged announcements, and carefully timed media drops. It's not just misleading, it's theatrical. But the script is starting to fall apart. Andrew Neil's analysis didn't just attack a few policies. It questioned Starmer's entire foundation. Remember, this is the same Starmer who built his leadership campaign on 10 pledges, radical, bold promises that energised the left. He spoke of nationalising rail, defending public services, taxing the rich, and breaking with corporate politics. He stood shoulder to shoulder with Jeremy Corbyn and called him a friend, a leader, someone fit to run the country. But it was all an act. Because less than a year into his leadership, those pledges were quietly deleted, one by one. He didn't revise them, he erased them. And what was his excuse? When asked why he campaigned so hard for a man he now claims he never even considered a friend, Starmer said he wanted good colleagues to be returned. That's not a defence, it's an admission. An admission that he said things he didn't believe, pushed policies he had no intention of keeping, and told voters what they wanted to hear only to burn the contract once he got what he wanted. That's not leadership. That's fraud with a smile. This is the crux of Andrew Neil's takedown. Keir Starmer isn't leading Labour, he's conning it. He didn't rise through principle. He climbed over the movement he later betrayed. He didn't win power on honesty, he weaponised public hope and sold it for political capital. And now that he's in office, he's not changing course, he's doubling down. He's taking Conservative wins, stamping Labour logos on them and calling it progress. That's not governance, that's theft wrapped in PR. And if you think it ends with immigration, think again. Because the £76 billion tax betrayal is just around the corner. Starmer claims he won't raise taxes. He promises to be fiscally responsible. But the numbers don't lie, and we'll break that down next. Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves want you to believe they're the grown-ups in the room. the responsible adults with calculators, not slogans. But behind their polished PowerPoint presentations and carefully staged interviews lies the biggest economic illusion in modern Labour history. The claim? No tax rises for working people. The reality? A fiscal time bomb already ticking beneath the surface. Starmer's Labour isn't avoiding tax hikes. They're rebranding them, disguising them, and preparing to unleash them on a middle class that's already bleeding from years of inflation, stagnant wages, and broken public services. And the most insidious part? They're lying to your face about it. Let's start with the numbers. The Institute for Fiscal Studies, independent economists, and budget watchdogs have all reviewed Labour's spending pledges. And here's the conclusion they keep repeating. There's a massive hole, between £20 billion to £76 billion, depending on whose numbers you trust. That's not a rounding error. That's a gaping void. Labour says they'll fund everything through growth and efficiency, but no serious economist buys that. You don't plug a multi-billion-pound shortfall by streamlining departments. You either cut spending or raise taxes. Starmer's team insists it's not the latter, but the evidence tells a different story. National insurance, one of the most regressive taxes in the UK, is Labour's first target. Reeves has openly floated the idea of rebalancing it. But let's cut through the jargon. Rebalancing means raising. You can call it reform, you can call it tweaking the thresholds, but at the end of the day, it takes more money out of workers' paychecks. And yet Labour continues to deny that it's a tax increase. It's the oldest trick in the book, rename the weapon before using it. And the media? Complicit. Headlines talk about adjustments and policy reviews instead of calling it what it is, a betrayal of economic promises. But the deception doesn't stop there. Starmer has allowed a ghost to haunt every interview, every fiscal press release, the mythical £20 billion black hole. Labour claims the Conservatives left it behind, an economic curse that forces tough decisions. But independent analysts say otherwise. The Office for Budget Responsibility can't find it. Leading economists have called it a phantom figure. So why does Labour keep referencing it? Because they need a scapegoat. They need a narrative to justify what's coming next. A tax hike so wide and deep, it will dwarf anything we've seen since the austerity days of George Osborne. And here's the clever part. Labour's numbers aren't just vague, they're deliberately vague. They leave just enough ambiguity to create deniability. Reeves says they'll be fiscally disciplined, but refuses to say how. Starmer promises no surprises, yet his policy documents are riddled with placeholders and conditional language. They're not offering a plan, they're offering a political illusion built to survive headlines, not scrutiny. And when the bills come due, and the public asks, why didn't you warn us? Labour will say, we never promised not to raise that tax. This is deception by design. It's not just about hiding details, it's about constructing a narrative that makes lies feel like truths. It's the same trick they used with immigration. Take credit for someone else's win, twist the timeline, pump it through a slick poster, and by the time the facts come out, the damage is done. Starmer isn't operating in the world of facts and figures. He's operating in optics and delay. Control the narrative long enough to survive the election, then shift blame when reality hits. And here's the most dangerous part. If they're willing to fabricate numbers on something as crucial as the national budget, what won't they lie about? If Starmer can say with a straight face that raising national insurance isn't a tax hike, what would he call slashing NHS funding? A service efficiency? If he breaks a pledge on tuition fees, will he call it a strategic re-evaluation? The man who once promised to abolish universal credit now defends the same welfare architecture. The man who pledged to reverse Tory tax breaks now calls them pragmatic. Every promise has an expiry date, and the closer we get to power, the faster the ink fades. Andrew Neil was right. This isn't politics as usual. This is a party that has weaponised dishonesty, not to fight the Tories, but to sedate the public. Starmer knows his numbers don't add up. He knows the working class is watching. But he's betting on exhaustion, on apathy, on the idea that after 14 years of Tory chaos, people will accept anything with a red rosette. Now what? It's the ultimate political gamble. Lie now, govern later, and hope no one remembers the details. But they will, because the internet doesn't forget, screenshots don't disappear, and tax hikes, no matter how nicely you rebrand them, always hurt. The question is no longer if Labour will break its economic promises. The question is, how many lies can one government tell before the public finally says, enough? Before Keir Starmer became the face of corporate Labour, he was something else entirely, a figure of hope for the party's grassroots. He didn't rise to power by presenting himself as a centrist manager. No, he wrapped himself in the banners of the very movement he would later destroy. He pledged loyalty to the left. He stood shoulder to shoulder with Jeremy Corbyn. He spoke passionately about renationalisation, workers' rights, free education, and standing up to the elite. And the members believed him. They gave him their votes, their trust, their energy. But once Starmer had what he wanted, the leadership, he torched every promise he made, one by one. Not quietly, not reluctantly, but strategically, ruthlessly, like a man scrubbing fingerprints from a crime scene. Start with the 10 pledges. They weren't vague ambitions. They were specific, bold, and deliberately crafted to reassure Labour's base that Starmer was continuity Corbyn with a more professional image. He promised to nationalise rail, mail, energy, and water. He pledged to abolish universal credit. He vowed to end outsourcing in the NHS, raise taxes on the rich, and defend free movement. But what happened after he won? Those pledges were quietly removed from Labour's website, not updated, erased. When questioned, Starmer dodged and deflected. He claimed circumstances have changed. But this wasn't change, it was betrayal. And it wasn't just policies he abandoned, it was people. Starmer once called Jeremy Corbyn a friend and colleague. He campaigned for him in 2017 and 2019. He stood on stages praising his leadership. But today, he claims he hasn't spoken to Corbyn in over 2 years. Was he a friend? Starmer was asked. His reply? No. Cold, calculated. That's not growth. That's opportunism. Because when Starmer stood beside Corbyn, he wasn't showing solidarity, he was biding his time. He knew the leadership couldn't be won from the right. So he used the left to climb the ladder, then kicked it away. Let's not forget, Starmer's leadership pitch was built on loyalty. He said Labour needed unity, and that he would bring the party together. But instead of unity, he brought purges. Hundreds of left-wing members and MPs have been deselected, marginalised, or suspended, many on vague, unexplained grounds. Meanwhile, hard-right defectors and Blairite relics have been welcomed back into the fold. This isn't unity, it's a hostile takeover. Starmer isn't leading Labour, he's colonising it. Just look at how he's treated Diane Abbott, Britain's first black female MP and one of Labour's most loyal anti-racism campaigners. Suspended over a letter, investigated for months, then sidelined while Starmer dodged questions about whether she would be allowed to stand again. Abbott wasn't just a Labour MP, she was a symbol of the party's moral conscience. And Starmer treated her like a liability. Why? Because the new Labour doesn't want conscience, it wants control. This is what Andrew Neil was pointing to when he said, Starmer governs through deception. It's not just about lying to the public, it's about lying to his own party. He built his platform on ideals he had no intention of keeping. And he didn't just abandon them, he buried them, discredited them, and tried to rewrite history. He now claims Labour is back in the centre ground. But that centre ground is built on broken promises, shattered movements, and silenced dissent. And while he preaches about restoring trust in politics, the truth is he's contributed to its complete erosion. Because when you betray the very people who put you in power, you don't just lose trust, you destroy it. And the public sees it. They remember the pledges, the Corbyn posters, the grassroots campaigns, the promises to tax the rich, nationalise energy, protect the NHS, and they see what's left. A Labour Party that looks, sounds and behaves like the very system it once claimed to fight. Starmer hasn't evolved, he's morphed. From a hope-fueled leadership candidate to a poll-obsessed political technician. There's no vision, no ideology, just tactics. Every policy is tested by focus groups. Every move is rehearsed for camera optics. Every sentence is triangulated to avoid offending corporate donors. This isn't leadership, it's branding. And yet the mainstream press applauds him. They call him prime ministerial, disciplined, so electable. But ask yourself, electable for whom? The working class he betrayed, the left he purged, or the boardrooms and media barons he now courts with open arms? This is what betrayal looks like, not in one dramatic moment, but in 1,000 small cuts, a pledge deleted here, a comrade discarded there, a policy reversed, then rebranded as pragmatism. And all the while, Starmer insists he's doing it for the good of the party. But the only thing that's improved is his image in the eyes of the establishment. Keir Starmer built a political identity on 2 words, trust and change. But as we've seen, through Andrew Neil's scathing takedown, Labour's fabricated economic plans and the ruthless betrayal of its own movement, those words have been hollowed out, twisted and repackaged for mass consumption like slogans on a billboard. And now, in the face of Reform UK's surge and Nigel Farage's relentless presence in the headlines, Starmer isn't reacting with confidence. He's panicking. You can hear it in his voice. You can see it in the desperation of Labour's comms team name-dropping Farage 16 times in a single speech, trying to mock him while also validating him. That's not leadership, that's fear. Starmer's Labour isn't ahead because of belief, it's ahead because of exhaustion. He's not winning votes on principle, he's coasting on a protest against the last 14 years. But that kind of victory is fragile, because when the dust settles, people don't just want someone who isn't the Tories, they want someone who means what they say. And right now, Starmer's only consistent skill is sounding like he cares while doing the exact opposite. The Farage factor isn't just a political nuisance, it's a test. Reform's rise has exposed the one thing Labour is terrified of, an electorate that still asks questions. Questions like, if Labour really supports working people, why are they freezing child benefits in real terms? Why are they preparing tax hikes while pretending not to? Why have they abandoned every transformative idea the grassroots ever pushed for? Why is Diane Abbott, a veteran MP, treated with more suspicion than the donors sitting in the front row of Starmer's fundraisers? These aren't minor contradictions, they're cracks in the foundation. And if Andrew Neil, a veteran of British journalism, sees it clearly enough to call it out in public, then voters are starting to see it too. Starmer's carefully curated image of stability, integrity, and economic credibility is just that, an image. Peel back the surface, and you find a leader obsessed with optics, allergic to accountability, and deeply committed to power at any cost. So, where does that leave us? With a Labour Party that wears red but governs like blue, a leader who talks of trust while operating through manipulation, and a nation that's desperate for change, being offered the same menu with different branding. This isn't just about Starmer. It's about whether Britain still believes in truth, whether voters can still be fooled by manufactured narratives, or whether the illusion is finally breaking. Because once people realise they've been sold a lie, they don't just turn away, they turn angry. So now we turn to you. Is Starmer truly the answer Britain needs, or just another polished actor in a rigged political theatre? Can the public afford to believe him one more time, or has the mask finally slipped too far? Let us know in the comments. And if you found this breakdown helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more truth behind the headlines. The next chapter in this political drama is just beginning, and you won't want to miss it. Thank you.